Good evening and welcome to the Cricket Show, the Island Stats Cricket Show. I'm your host, Earl Baston. My co-host, Andre Doc Manders, will be by later on. I am joined by Trevor Forth. We're at Fourth House, and I do want to thank you, Trevor, for allowing us to be here at your establishment to bring people the last round of cricket in the country for the T20. And I invited you to join because of your cricket prowess.
Yes, indeed.
How you played a couple of games this year for Willicott?
I surely did.
Okay, and you got promoted.
I did.
Okay, all right. So that's a plus.
It is a plus. I only played the T20
Right.
shorter players.
Oh, okay.
So that's still me.
How you get short at the shorter version of the game? Usually everybody was a pretty shorter version.
Real. We were short at home too. At Somerset. I'm like, man, I had a party last night, man. So, but anyway, I still showed up.
Right.
Do my due diligence.
Right. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Oh, and guess who we have? Brother Doc.
How you doing, Al?
I'm good. Good to see you. I've got your mate Trevor with me.
What's up, Doc?
Who's that, Trevor?
Trevor, yeah.
Hey, Trevor.
Ford. Yeah.
Man.
How you doing?
Skipper? What is that?
Yes.
Well, an interesting weekend we've had, Doc. We know that prior to the week starting, St. George's had already wrapped up the league, and it was all about the relegation battle. And everybody knew that those 10-30 games meant a lot, especially for teams looking to get themselves out of trouble. And then the 2:30 games meant even more, in order to make sure that if you didn't win that first game and things went your way, you still had that opportunity. Unfortunately, for a team like, when we say a name like Southampton Rangers, who took on Somerset in the 10:30 game, knowing that they needed to win to stay up. Unfortunately for Southampton Rangers, they didn't do that. Let me just quickly run through the scores, and then we'll get into the matches. So Bailiffs Bay won by 13 runs over Warwick Workmen's. Bailiffs Bay scored 158 for 6. Warwick Workmen's were 145 all out. St. George's Cricket Club won by 8 wickets over Cleveland County. Cleveland County scored 106 for 5. St. George's scored 109 for 2. Somerset Cricket Club, as I stated already, defeated Southampton Rangers by 83 runs. Somerset Cricket Club scored 159 for 3, and then bowled Southampton Rangers out for 76. Western Stars won by 6 wickets over Bailey's Bay in the afternoon matches. Bailey's Bay scored 98 for 9, and Western Stars scored 99 for 4. St. George's Cricket Club then remained undefeated for the entire T20 league by defeating Somerset Cricket Club by 84 runs. St. George's scored 198 for 5 and bowled Somerset out for 114. And Cleveland County won by 1 run over Warwick Workmen's. Cleveland County scored 133 for 8, and Warwick Workmen's scored 132 for 9. So, Doc, Trevor, let's talk about that 10:30 match with Somerset and Southampton Rangers, because the reason why I picked this game to talk about first, because the significance of what Southampton Rangers have been to cricket over the years in a league that, even the 2020, but what they've been to the league itself, to hear Southampton Rangers will be playing in, it's almost like the shock we had to hear St. David's playing in the first division this season. When we said it last season, it was like a shock to the system. But so done at Lord's on yesterday. Somerset batted first, and they scored 153. They had both Matt Watson and L.J. Richardson score 44. Gennaro Tucker was the pick of the Rangers bowlers. He took 1 for 25. They only lost 3 wickets from 3 overs. And then in reply, Southampton Rangers were bowled out for 76. Dion Stubble was the top bat with 25. Alex Brown was the pick of the Somerset Cricket Club bowlers. 1.4 overs, 3 wickets for 9 runs. Doc, I'm going to ask you first, your thoughts on Southampton Rangers taking the plunge.
Well, I was a little surprised, and but then again, I'm not really too surprised, but because the way the players that have been playing in the 2024 for Southampton, if you look at it, they was missing Gennaro and Dion for a few of the games,
Mhm.
um, and those games they end up losing, So I mean, when you look at Gennaro's experience and Dion's experience out of that team, it's a big miss out of that team, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why they went on. But it's like St. Davis last year, and who thought St.
Mhm.
Davis went on in the 2020? So now you got St. Davis down, now you got Rangers down. So it's I heard Dalen Richardson, the captain, said it's good for rebuilding, and that can be true. Now
Right.
they need to rebuild. They got a lot of young players and a lot
Mhm.
of inexperienced players that are playing for them. So it's probably a time where they need to go down and rebuild. But even still, even in the first division, there's games down there are fairly close too. So
Right.
either you want to rebuild and come back up, or because rebuilding means these guys got to stay to the wicket bet. They got to. It's a lot to rebuilding. So
Right.
David, when they went down with the same team and came right back up, even though they had a
Mhm.
few youngsters in the team too. But
Right.
most of those guys played every week. You had George, uh, OJ, and
Yeah.
Derek.
Justin.
Carter.
Yeah.
Those guys are
Yeah.
playing in 2020, so they went
Mhm.
to undefeated.
Right.
So, I'm a little shocked Rangers went down, like I said. But I mean, shocked. I say I'm a little bit of surprise, but it's one of those things. 2020 is a game where it's one on the field. Um, any team. If you look at Cleveland and Ward, they battle right to the end,
Right to the end. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's unfortunate they lost some games early. So who knows what probably would have happened if they would have made one or two games early.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you look at that 2020, it was close to Hubei, went right down to the last
Yeah.
game of the season, in it.
Yeah.
So, it looked like St. George's was running away. But if you look at St. George's team, they got the most informed, no, I say the most all-round team
Right.
out of all the teams that's up there. So, and they just won. They was the most experienced team too. If you
Mhm.
look at
Mhm.
2020, because a lot of the other teams had maybe three or four good players, that probably could make runs, that could bowl and bat, maybe five, But you look at St. George's team, they had it from like almost 1 to 8 or 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely. Well, let me bring Trevor in. Trevor, clearly when you hear the Western County champions, the Western County Cup champions, um, they play, you guys play 50 overs in the Western County, but to hear a club like Southampton Rangers being relegated in any form of the game, it must be kind of where you have to think about it and say, did I really hear that?
Yes, it definitely was a shock. But I'm very close to Gennaro, so I talk to Gennaro every so often to get some feedback from him, and he's basically saying like it's the commitment from the players for one, and then you gotta have players who are always thinking the game. I don't think you have cricketing minds at a high IQ. They missed Dion, Stubble, and Gennaro for a few games. So in those games they lost. So it's always going to be an uphill battle because there's especially the stalwarts or a range of stalwarts who, in that short version of the game, can dominate the game with bat and ball. So that lost like in 4 different departments, the batting and the burden from both of those two guys.
Right.
So it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
And that in a rebuilding stage, and it's definitely a shock because they've been a cricketing phenomenon for decades, not even years, for decades.
Right.
I'm played against the Colin Blairs and the John Tuckers of the world back in the 80s and whatnot. So to see or to hear that Southampton Rangers in cricket has been denoted is a shocker.
Sure.
For the community, for their community as well as the cricket and sport of Bermuda as well.
Yeah. And Doc, Somerset would have saved their entire. We're not talking cup match, but their league season. Remember, they went through the entire 50 overs without getting a win, and it looked like they were going that same way in the T20, but then they managed to turn it around and pick up 5 wins to stay up.
Yeah, and we talked about it, and they picked up some more players. I think 2 or 3 commercial league players that helped them a lot. And there's wins too, but not only that, you had Jordan back, that was probably fit. Because, going into the 50 overs, he didn't play too many games. I don't know, there was maybe some fitness issues. He was probably ill. But then, if the other players start picking their games up too, like Greg Mabry, L.J. Richardson started getting runs. You impressed me with Somerset's team, which is the 2 bowlers, Isaiah Richardson and Sheldon Caesar in the 2020. I watched those 2 guys bowl up Somerset, and I was very impressed with them, to tell you the truth. They bowl a good line and length. And the guy Sheldon Caesar's got a little bit of pace to him.
Right.
But the problem with Somerset was they just wasn't making enough runs. Now with the 2 commercial league guys coming here to play, especially Matt Watson, he's continuous making runs all games, 50, 40 wickets. So
if they can hang on to him for an entire season, he can actually, really, really improve their batting lineup, which he has since he's been playing for them.
And as an all-rounder, he gets wickets too, and it's a good. So that was a big plus when they picked up, and but like I said, with the bowling lineup too, once they start making runs, they're a formidable team to try to beat, and like you said, they got 5 wins. Mean, like teams that beat them the first time around, they was actually beating them in the second round. So and that game against Rangers, when they played do or die, I know that that they probably said, looking into that game, they probably said they could probably get 1 over range, even with Gennaro and Dion playing.
Dion in the team,
yeah. They probably thought if they could get 1 or 2 of them out early,
right?
In the game.
Gennaro went with the first ball of the inning. So
that was a big bonus from there.
Right.
So the pressure's on Dion really after that, isn't it? And the boy Charles. Then what I see with Rangers team, like they depend on at least 3 or 4 guys getting runs all the time. And that's basically Charles Trott. Sometimes Dylan Richardson will get runs, and he's narrow, and Dion. So you take 2 out of the equation. Like Narrow and Dion's not playing. Right. It's like who else is gonna make runs? So they would have needed to get some Narrow. Like I said, there's few games that they missed. I think that hurt them a lot.
Sure. And Trevor, let me just get your opinion on Somerset. I mean, they were having what we would consider a horrible time at the 50 overs, and the start of the T20, we were seeing the same thing. It's like, will they even win a game? But they managed to turn it around.
I think in the beginning of the season, I think they had a lot of players that were off island, possibly. I didn't watch them play too often. On a Sunday, it's hard for me to get out and watch these games. But I'm always looking at the talk shows and reading papers and looking to see who's performing and who's not performing. And I think they struggled in the beginning of the season, especially in the 50 overs, because they had a lack of players.
Right.
You understand? So I think in the latter part of the season, they started to pick these players up from coming back from school, and then integrating them into the season, and they finished off strong. So it's a credit to Jeff and Somerset players for putting in that good performance.
Sure. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more of the Island Stats Cricket Show. We'll be right back.
Putting down a weapon.
You seeing this? Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy. But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born. I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life. I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy. But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born. I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
And welcome back. Well, Doc, down at Seabreeze at the 10:30 match yesterday, it was Bailey's Bay taking on Warwick Workman's. The only way Warwick could survive was by winning this match. They restricted Bailey's Bay to 158 for 6 in their 20 overs. Shirai Tavares was the top scorer with 57. Luke Fulton took 2 for 20 from 2 overs. In reply, Warwick Workman were 100 without loss before Malachi went on 49. And then the wheels came off. They were all out for 145. And that all but ended their time in the Premier Division. But with the captain, Stephen Dill and Malachi opening, they had that opportunity. There were balls that they didn't put away, and it came back to haunt them. Once Malachi went, they lost a wicket in the very next bowl, and it just went downhill from there. But looking at a team like Warwick, for years we've heard this. They're developing youngsters. They're developing youngsters. They're developing youngsters. When will they actually be the benefit of what they've developed in keeping some of these players? Because a lot of these players end up going to other clubs and making those other clubs even stronger. You heard me, Doc?
No, you broke up a bit.
Oh, okay. No, I was saying, when will we see Warwick Ruckman benefit from the work that they've done with the youngsters? Because it always seems as if once the youngsters get established, they go to another club and work start all over again.
Well, the benefit now, and I mean, one thing about it, they fought to the end.
Right.
And hopefully next season they could, if Malachi stays and they get a few more players, and none of them don't leave, they're going to be a force to reckon with in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And Trevor, for you, again, they had Alan Douglas coaching them. He had youngsters. They then had Lionel Cairn coaching them. He had youngsters.
Yes.
Lorenzo Tucker's been around the system for a while, and a lot of these guys have been, coming through their program. But then when you see them, move on, it's kind of frustrating at times. Especially, it's got to be frustrating for Warwick.
Yes, and there again, it goes back to like you need the players committed to the program.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You got to try to lock these players in, these young players in, for a certain period of time.
Right.
So they will all develop as one. You're always going to need experienced players to guide them and push them along. You're always going to need that. You know, whether it's a coach, whether it's nice to have senior players to be on the field of play, so they can make them understand how this game is played.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
it's important that when you get these young players, and the clubs got to play a part too.
Right.
The clubs got to be, hey, listen, I got to try to do something. Maybe it's create some more incentive.
Yeah.
They can stay at the club. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I remember when I was coming along, 1984, Doc was I think Doc came after we won the 1984 Open Cricket for Somerset. He wasn't in that team, really, Doc?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Right. So I was a youngster, but it was a privilege for me to be even involved, being around the Joe Bailey's, the John Tuckers, the Shiraz Adams of the world, to get to see how they go about the business on a day to or week to month basis. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So I got a hands-on view on how these, like Doc, how they go about preparing themselves for a game.
Right, which is a plus. I mean, you know, we talked about it. We talked about a club like Bailey's Bay. They put all their eggs in the basket to win Eastern County, which they done.
Yes.
But the rest of the season was almost like they were going through the motions.
Right.
Once they knew they were safe in the T20, it was almost like, okay, yeah, we'll just go through these motions. And pretty much they knew going into yesterday's matches, they were okay.
Right.
You know, and it's funny because even the body language, even when work was going along, looking as if there's a possibility they may get these runs, especially with Malachi at the crease and Stephen at the crease. You know, it looked like they might be able to do it. It was very hard for them to change that mentality or that approach to the game, which just guys would just run the building and then the wicket started falling. Ward kind of was getting themselves out. I mean, the bowlers were putting the ball in the right areas, and these guys were just missing the ball. I mean, back-to-back wickets. When I say wicket, bill.
Right.
You know, Malachi tried to go for a heave, fade right over the top of the ball hit the bail. Because that was the only thing that fell off, the bail. Very next ball, Shirai, same ball. Player went back. I don't know why he went back, but he went back. Center stop. I'm like, man, and all of a sudden, the attitude of the Bailey's Bay players is now changed. Now into the game, into the life of the game and so forth. And you know, I'm pretty sure Gus wouldn't have been happy with some of the actions prior to that, but then they got themselves together. So I think that has, with Gus helping them, you've seen a little difference in Bailey's Bay's approaches to games. Wouldn't you say, Doc?
Yeah, it's a big difference too, man. You know, with all that experience Gus has got, you know, and you know, here's a player, a person where you could talk to, you know, young players is looking up to him, and you know, he's a people's person, man. You could ask him anything, so I'm sure those guys are asking him, you know, questions, even off the field. You know, Gus is making sure these guys are all right. So, you know, you got to give Bailey credit, man. They got a young team too. So, like you said, Earl, I was online looking at that game. I was so sure, you know, Ward was going to win that game too. But Bay's got a strong bowling lineup, and they, you know, they kept up composure, and when you look at it, end up winning.
I mean, when I was there, I said this is a comfortable. They could cruise him from here, but the wheels fell off. Like I said, once Malachi went, and then the very next player went, I was like, oh boy, here goes the wheels, you know. And it's very difficult for young players to come in after that. And some of these guys that are playing for Warwick, this would be the first year in senior cricket. Right. But you're down to the last day. So you've played 50 overs. Some of them featured in the Western County. Yes. And now you're down to the last day. You have to win, especially the first game, to put pressure on everybody else. Right. And we come up short, and it's unfortunate. It was really unfortunate that they weren't able to fulfill at least that part to make it very interesting. The final game at 10:30 was St. George's Cricket Club and Cleveland County. Cleveland County batted first. They scored 106 for 5. Mackay Young was the top scorer with 40. Alan Douglas with the Piccadilly St. George's Bowlers, 4 overs, 2 for 11. And then in reply, St. George's scored 109 for 2. Douglas was the top scorer with 63 not out, off of 32 balls. Mackay McGowan took 1 for 20. St. George's had going into this match, going into the day, were undefeated in the league, and I think they wanted to make sure, especially that first game, they wanted to make sure that they continued that along the way, and putting away Cleveland County, who desperately had to win as well. They were playing for their Premier Division lives as well. It became a tall order. Cleveland's problem has been all year. It's been consistency either with the bat or the ball. They either make runs and give up runs in the bowling, or they bowl a team out for cheap and they can't get the runs. And they've been falling short. I mean, they've won a few games, but they keep falling short of an all-round performance. They had 2 all-round performances last week. Remember that they beat Somerset and then they beat Rangers. 2 all-round performances, but they couldn't emulate the same thing this week. It made it difficult. What you think, Trevor?
I watched Cleveland play only because they played a game for Willicots at Sampson Rangers. And they played the second game against Rangers. So I'm saying, like, the batting and the record, my rugby meals is good.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, players were not studying. They don't study the game.
Right.
You understand? The record was not coming up. The ball was not coming up.
Right.
So I'm saying, why is this? I'm watching the guy bat. I'm saying, why are you going on your back foot?
Right.
The ball's not coming up. You could go only front foot, even if the ball's pitched short.
Right.
You could still play the ball comfortably.
Right.
On the front foot.
Right. Right.
I'm like, and the next batsman came. He got Bill. The next batsman came and was doing the same thing.
Right. Right.
I said, I can't watch this. I can't watch this. And then somebody's either the other batsman has to be alert enough to tell him the ball is not coming up.
Right, right.
If the ball's short, you can still play the ball comfortably.
Right, right.
Understand? But once you go back and then you stay back and you try to go forward, it's
right.
over.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
over.
Yeah. And especially to a team like St. George's, who has been consistent in both batting and bowling. I mean, they scored over 190 several games, and then restricted teams to under 150 almost every week. You hear me, Doc? Okay. You hear me? When Cleveland playing against a team like St. George's, who scores they're averaging 190 runs a game, and the restricting teams to under 150 a game. You have to be on your P's and Q's, especially if you're fighting for your life.
Most definite, yeah. It's unfortunate for like I said, for some of those teams. You got to look at it was a close 2020 season for all the teams, man. Any team like that was kind of run away with was St. George's and Bay at the beginning. Stars got some victories in the beginning of the season. That's probably what kept them up. But you got to give kudos to those other teams, man. That's for Cleveland, Somerset. Those teams, they battle right to the end, man.
Right, right.
And especially Somerset. With them not winning a game in the 50 years, they didn't turn around in 2020 and been 4 or 5 on the track. So
yeah. But what we're going to do, we're going to take
in the right direction. And like Travis said, they got a lot of some players back, but you got to remember they still got quite a few players that are out in the UK playing cricket too.
Right, right.
So I mean, it's a few other teams that have got players that in the UK.
Right.
And so, but which is good, man. You need these young guys to come back and perform at the level, at a level, because when they're playing in the UK, sometimes everybody thinks it's backyard cricket or what they call it, but sometimes when I first went to the UK, any cricket that's played in the UK, you always got 4 or 5 good players that's playing in it, and you're playing on battlefields and battle crickets.
Right.
So and I see some. I'm been following a lot of the young guys that are out there. They're playing in some of the teams, second teams, and they're playing on good fields, good grounds, good builders. So yeah, it's and it's cool to see these guys playing with some of these semi-professional guys that are out there, and bringing, and bringing it back to Bermuda. So yeah, it's good for them, man.
Right. We're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about the 2:30 games. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy. But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born. I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
And welcome back. Well, Doc, in the 2:30 games at Seabreeze Oval, Western Stars picked up a vital win, defeating Bailey's Bay by 6 wickets. Bailey's Bay batted first and scored 98 for 9. Taryn Frey was the top scorer with 20. Dante Wellman was the pick of the Western Stars bowlers. He took 3 for 23 over 4 overs. And then in reply, Western Stars scored 99 for 4. Kyrie Furbett, he opened the inning again, Doc, and he scored 37. Kieran Trott took 2 for 4 off of 1.4 overs for Bailey's Bay. But I think both clubs would be happy because Western Stars has been sharing Bailey's Bay with St. John's out of commission. And just to know that both teams will be in the Premier Division for the T20 again, it bodes well for those two clubs. Now, the Western Stars were playing in the first division for 50 overs?
Yeah, and they came up.
And they got promoted. So now it's even bigger for Bailey's Bay now because each week they'll be hosting two Premier Division teams.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win situation. I am no way saying that Bailey's Bay let Western Stars win. I'm not saying that, but it worked well for the club. Your thoughts on Western Stars, Doc?
Well, like I said, what's their damn? They got those points early, and they have a good run rate too. See, I mean, like that run rate, that's what kept them second and third. That run rate was right next to St. George's. If you looked at it, so by them winning, and even if the other teams are tied on their own points, the run rate was better than a lot of them, and that was only because early in the season they got, they got some good results, and so they pushed that run rate right up, and they kind of kept it towards the end. They got a shock last week and Warwick beat them. But it's nice that they bounced back to beat Bay. So yeah, they had a really good season to win the 50 overs and then come up and then to stay up in the 2020 because that was our main thing to try to stay up in the first
Right.
first season of
Right.
the T20 tournament. But that was difficult. If you look at it last year, you look at St. Davis going on, who could visualize St. Davis going on? But
Right.
automatically they came right back up.
Yeah.
But still, for Stars to go up, to be in both, like you said, to be in both the 50 overs and 20 in the Premier Division, that's a bonus too. But they would
Yeah.
probably still need to pick up a few more players.
Right. Right. And Trevor, for a team like Bailey's Bay, relied heavily in the batting department with Taryn and Stephen Otterbridge as well because they're the senior players. You had young Shirai, Tavares come good of late with the bat, also with the ball. You had a lot of the Berlin was what kept them in games or was winning them games even in the 50 overs. But they're going to need some help in that batting department next season, which is something that they really need to work on because the Berlin was as we noted, Doc, the Berlin was far superior than a lot of other teams, if not all the teams, especially in the 50 overs. They proved it week in and week out. But again, you could build a team out for cheap, but if you can't get the runs,
Exactly.
and I'm pretty sure there were times even for Willicots in the first division or even in the Premier for the 50 overs, you guys found the same problems.
Yes, indeed. One thing I would say about both of those clubs, Western Stars and Bakersfield, from what little I saw from them, the approach to the game, to the actual game of play, was up a high standard.
Right.
I mean, warm-ups, I think Regis helping with Western Stars with the warm-ups. I didn't realize that until I said Regis helping him with the warm-ups and whatnot and fielding practice. So they're warming up before the games, so getting the minds prepared, obviously, for the game of play. And with Gus Luggy at Beta Spade, obviously he's trying to put that, instill that high standard of play as well.
Right.
So that would only bode well for both of those clubs in the future seasons to come.
Right.
And
yeah. And then in next match, obviously St. George's playing Somerset. St. George's had earlier won. They were undefeated going up against Somerset Cricket Club, their last game. Somerset probably want to be spoilers, but it was not to be at Wellington Oval. St. George's scored 84-run victory. Batting first, St. George's scored 198 for 5. Alan Douglas was the top scorer with 96. Azar Morrissey was the pick of the Somerset Bowlers, 2 for 24 over 3 overs. And then in reply, Somerset were all out for 114. L.J. Richardson scored 43 not out. And Shaq Darrell was the pick of the St. George's Bowlers with 2 for 12 from 4 overs that included 1 maiden. St. George's going through the entire season undefeated says a lot because as defending champion, we know the first thing you want to do is make sure you defend your title, and they managed to do that. But with a target on your back, each and every game becomes that much harder. And as you get closer and closer and closer, once they wrapped up the league last week, Doc, the only thing left was to go undefeated, and then you had 2 teams fighting for survival, and you had to play well both games on that one day. So. What's your thoughts on St. George's going undefeated, Doc?
I like I said before, we talked earlier about St. George's. They got one of the better all-round teams in the league. You look at St. George's team. You got Alan Douglas, Mackay Simmons. You got Onayas, Bascom. Treadwell Gibbons, Timiko Wilson, all these guys, they got a good and you forget the boy Burgess, Seco Burgess, these guys can hit the ball, Bill, they got some of the biggest hitters in the league, and they got a really good Berlin lineup too. So, and you got to remember, most of those guys play a cup match. Half of those guys is like 6 or 7 of them be cup match players. So with Clay Darn there, it's coaching. So it's I'm not surprised that they went to the whole season undefeated, but I thought maybe Baylor's Bay probably would have given a better go. But
Right.
then if you look at, like you said, Bay team to St. George's team, like it's like Bay would have needed to get a big turtle to beat them, and
Right.
unfortunately they didn't. I mean, it was a close game in the second game, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it went on to the wire.
Yeah,
So
last wicket. Yeah. Yeah.
right, maybe if Bay would have scored more runs, you never know what happened. But if you look at it, Bay was probably been the only team that probably would have given a go or other than Rangers. If you got Narrow and Dion playing and both of them, at their best.
Right.
But like I said, St. George's has the better team in the
Right.
league for 2020. They struggled in the
Right.
50 overs, but 2020, like you said, they're the defending champion, so that means a lot too.
Right. Now, Trevor, Somerset, having beaten Rangers early in the day, knew they were safe.
Right.
Right? But they're going to St. George's, you're going up against your cup match rivals, they're undefeated, you want to be the spoiler. How do you think, well, it didn't work out for them, but when you start saying that, okay, St. George's scored 198 runs in the pavilion, what are you talking about?
Well, you got 120 balls to deal with.
Right.
You understand? Like Doc said, St. George's is well balanced and strong. I was at St. George's Cricket Club yesterday early, so I was able to see a little bit of the first game. Clay was out there.
Yeah, Clay batted him and Jonte opened.
Okay, I didn't see him bat, but I saw him when he field. I said,
right.
But I knew that wolf from anywhere. So yeah, that was Clay out there. And then I spoke to Ananias. I'm not sure if he played the first game.
He didn't play the first game.
Right, but he said, make sure I play that second game.
Right.
That's a war. No matter you could be playing Marvel Summers against St. George's, it's a war. And he said, I'll definitely play in the second game.
Right.
So yeah, that's
yeah.
That's what it is,
Yeah, well, Clay and Jonte opened that first game. The first and then,
nice to see.
Yeah, and Clay still could. He could still bat. He got. I think he got 20, something like that. But
but it's a tall order.
Yeah.
You got Adam Douglas out there. I'm watching him preparing the wicket, and then he getting out there banging the ball, getting wickets. So yeah. I knew they was gonna be in for a tough battle. Prior.
Right.
I knew that.
Right.
196 chasing 196.
Yeah.
You got 120 balls. If you lose a couple of wickets, your batting becomes becomes very slim after that. If regards to St. George's, they could lose a couple of quick wickets.
Right.
But they got batting deep.
Right.
The orders.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to come.
Yeah.
Especially with 2020
right.
format of
right.
the game.
Right.
So they're very strong.
Yeah.
In that capacity.
Sure. Then the final game, the 2:30 games yesterday, came down to one-run victory for Cleveland County over at St. David's. Cleveland batted first and scored 133 for 8. Makai McGowan was the top scorer of 32. Malachi Jones took 3 for 15 from 4 overs for Warwick. And in reply, Warwick could only score 132 for 9. Malachi was the top scorer with 24, and Kushai Darrell took 2 for 14 from 4. Now, these two teams going into the game knew they were already relegated.
Right.
But it was a matter of who is coming last.
Right.
That's always up.
Still playing for something.
Yeah, something to play for. We've talked in length about Warwick, we've talked in length about Cleveland, but with that on the line, I don't want to be last.
Exactly.
You're in that changing room before the game starts. You already know you're going, but getting your players up to understand, hey, we ain't coming last in this league. Yeah. What you think that talk was, especially for a team like Cleveland County, Doc?
I don't know. They probably just want to, keep it simple, to do what they was doing. Got to remember, Earl, they was winning, so just keep that winning streak going. And they done it. So that's all they was worrying about. And like I said, knowing that both knowing that they was probably already relegated, they probably, like you said, they probably wanted to finish above Warwick, and they done it.
Definitely. Well, we're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Player of the Week and Player of the Month. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy. But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born. I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Just putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Go fine.
All right, well, Doc, we have, I'll break down some of the players who stood out this last weekend here for Warwick in their match. Malachi took against Cleveland. Malachi took 3 for 15, and he also scored 24 runs. St. George's in their match against Somerset, Alan Douglas, 96. He also grabbed 2 wickets in the St. George's inning. L.J. Richardson scored 43, not out, in the match between Western Stars and Bailey's Bay. Tarrant 20, Kyrie 37, helping Western Stars win that. Over St. David's, the Somerset and Southampton Rangers game, Matt Watson and L.J. scored 44, and then Dion scored 25, but Alex Brown took 3 for 9, or for 1.4 was for Somerset. In the St. George's Cleveland County game, Alan Douglas again 2 more wickets and scoring 63, not out. And then Shirai Tavares 57 for Bailey's Bay against Warwick. He also took 2 wickets in that game. Courage Durham took 5 wickets for 19 over 3 overs. Taryn Frey also bowled and got 3 wickets for 22 over 4 overs. But clearly the player getting the nod for me for the player of the week is none other than Alan Douglas with his with the match between them and Cleveland, scoring 63 not out and taking 2 wickets, and then scoring 96 against Somerset and also claiming 2 wickets. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's true, Earl. When I looked at it, it's really obvious Alan got to the game. He had a good weekend. Berlin and betting. So it's only right that Alan gets it. I mean, there's been some other ones, some other all-round performances, but with St. George's winning the league and him, basically getting wickets and runs, I think it's definitely got to be him.
Right. And Trevor, when you see someone dominating with both bat and ball, obviously it's a standout for that person, isn't it?
It surely is. He didn't do too good in the 50-over format this season. However, the T20 suits his game to very fitted to his game. So he's able to dominate with the ball and bat. And plus is also a good fielder as well.
Right.
So hats off to him. I think he definitely was the player of the game.
Yeah. And Doc, we also have to do the player of the month. And after this past weekend, and already having won it already earlier this month or last month, none other than Alan Douglas again. He has been consistent in this T20, especially in the month of September, helping to guide St. George's to the league title.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, you got it. Wickets and runs, you know, and like Trevor said, he's also, you know, a good fielder too. So, you know, it's that basically had a good good 2020 if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, he's a 2020 player. If you look at it, he likes the ball coming on. He likes to hit the ball. So and he took advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, I think he failed a couple of times in the middle, but dominated more often. If he didn't, one thing about him throughout the entire T20, if he didn't get runs, he was making sure he cleaned wickets.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You know, he always seemed to put himself in the mix somewhere to help make sure his team was successful. And with that, with the support of players like you've already said, Onias, Mackay, Treddy, Tomiko, Zico, you know, and Zari, these guys all chipped in and done a part for St. George's to go undefeated in the T20. And I think for them, they'll look back at it and say, now we need to figure out how we be successful in that 50-over format. Because if you're successful in a T20, you're undefeated. What did we do that bad in the 50 overs that we can't emulate in the, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And they need to work on that.
Yes. Again, goes down to the mindset. I'm pretty sure Clay would got back to the drawing board and figure that out. But that's 20 overs, so you got another 30 overs to bat. So if you got 196 and 20 overs, and I'll still got another 30 overs to bat. So it goes back to the mindset, goes back to approach of the game, it goes back to studying the wickets. You're playing these same players or same teams, you're in, you're out. So you should know how to go about defeating or getting the best out of your game each and every week.
Yeah.
You know, and also the playing for something. I mean, Alan has an energized body. So
Right.
It's gonna bring a lot of energy to the game. And it's the guy, it's the Kirby Bryant, Michael Jordan of St. George to try to lift the club.
Right.
And then with all that was going on with the community, with the loss of Saji and Freddie Hall, so they had more incentives to get it done.
Right. Well, Doc, I want to thank you for joining me this season. It's been really, really good. Look forward to you being available next summer. I know you have your endeavors over in the UK, but I'm looking forward to seeing you next summer back here on the Island Stats Cricket Show. You know, I think what you bring is value to the sport and your knowledge in the sport, and as well as knowing some of these players in and out where you talk to them, you know, on and off the field, and get their ideas of where their heads are at. And again, I want to thank you very, very much for joining me on the Island Stats Cricket Show.
No problem, Merrill. Hopefully we could do it again next year. Go Billy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go Billy. Yeah. And again, I want to thank Trevor Forth for allowing us to use the Fourth House for tonight's first football show and now cricket show. And thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me as well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah.
And nice seeing you, Doc.
Nice to see you too. Nice to see you, Trevor.
Yes, indeed.
Next time you see him, you guys can hand me the trophy.
I don't know about that, Doc.
I always want to end on a good note. I'm going to leave on that note. Guys, have a good night. Thank you.
All right, you too. Cool.